In this clip I'm going to show you a quick way of making an openable door that you can also add a key to so that it can be locked and unlocked depending on whether the player has picked up items from within the level. So I'm going to start with an empty third person template. This is just the standard third person example from the editor, and I've also included starter content so that we've got a few props in here. The item that we're going to want is the door to start with, but first of all I'm just going to make a new actor just in our third person blueprint folder, and I'll call this actor door underscore BP. And inside this I'm going to add a mesh component, static mesh, and I want the static mesh to be the door that comes with the starter content. So you've got this SM door which we'll add just by selecting it here and choosing the door there. You notice how the pivot point is it should be set in the scene root, and also I'll add the door frame as well just by adding a new static mesh. Like so. So we'll just adjust the position of the door so it fits approximately in the middle. You may need to adjust the axis snapping. There we are. And I'll just drag one of these onto our level. So we'll place it in here, and if I just play it now, you'll see there's a slight issue with the door in that you can run straight through it, which is no use to us at the moment. So first of all we need to fix the collision on the built-in door. So if we just open this up, and you'll notice if you look at the collision there isn't one, so we can add a simple let's add a simple box collision to this. There we are. And you notice it just extends the width of the door at the moment, but we'll leave that for now and we'll come back and fix it properly later. So we just added a box collision there. If we run the game this time, we should see that we can't walk through the door anymore. So let's go back to our blueprints. The next thing we need to do is create an input. So to use the door we're going to use our left mouse button, and we'll kind of look at the door, we'll click the mouse button, that will then open the door. So first of all let's add an input for our mouse button. So under action mappings on the inputs we're going to add an input called use item, and I'll just select the mouse's left button. Okay, once that's done, we're going to create, as we've done in the previous clips, an interface. Now an interface is a way of getting your blueprints to talk to each other, and in this case we'll have an interface on our door which in effect gets called each time we try and use the door from our third person character. So we'll call it interface underscore BP, and inside this we'll call it function name. So just make sure that when you create these, that you compile them and save them. Otherwise the interfaces sometimes don't work first time. Back inside of our door then, we're going to add this interface to our door blueprint. So that's done via the class settings, where it says here implemented interfaces, it says none. We need to add our interface here, and again for some reason my menu system doesn't work so well. There we are. So we should interface BP. There we are. You should get a proper pop-up menu showing there, but again for some reason mine doesn't work quite properly. But make sure you've got your interface BP on there. You've got to compile, and then just to sort of remind you that the interface BP that's shown on this implemented interfaces here is this interface BP here, so that's just a reference from one to the other, like so. Okay, so with the interface on there, it means we can now access the interact event. And we should this thing called the add event interact event. So just make sure you pick the right one, don't pick these ones here, interact or the interface call, just the one that's under the event there. It should be the red version of it. And just for now, we'll get it to print a string. And we'll just get it to print the message interacting with door. Okay, so that's the door set up and ready to receive events. So now inside of our third person character, we're just going to find a space at the bottom here, and if I zoom in a little bit, what we're going to do now is add our mouse event, which was called use item. Wherever, there we are, that's use item, so that's connected to our left mouse click, and when we press this, we're going to do a line trace by channel. And we're basically going to shoot out a ray or a beam trace from the current position where we stood up until the door itself. So let's trace from the capsule component. Try it like this. So if we get the world location for the player's capsule, if we also get the forward vector for this as well, so that basically gives us the direction that the player is facing, so the location and the way that they're facing. And then we need to multiply their forward vector, so vector times float, we need to multiply it by the amount of distance that we want to sort of be within range for the door. So about 500 seems to work quite well. If it's too far, then you'd be able to open doors from a long distance away, which would be a bit strange, and if it's too close you'd have to be kind of right on top of them to operate them. So try a few different numbers in there, see what works for your game. Once you multiply the distance, you just need to add the two vectors together, like so, and that will be your .end location, so the casting forward from the character and multiplying it, that'll be 500 in front of where the player is, and the start location is where that capsule is to begin with. So we start the capsule, we cast forward by 500, that's our end location. We're going to trace via the visibility channel. We've got nothing to ignore, but we will turn on the debug option just to make it a little easier to see what's happening, and we'll ignore ourselves because we don't want to kind of catch our own hands or arms or weapons or whatever that's within the third person character. The out hit will break apart using the break method, and then once we've done that, we will call our interact event, spell it right. So we send out the interact message, and the target will be the door that we're looking at, so we'll know that that's the hit actor from here. That'll be the thing that our line tracer's bumped into. Now the nice thing about interfaces is if it hits something that hasn't got an interact function on it, it won't crash, it won't cause us any problems, it will just ignore that. So we can just try and call the interact function on the object, and if it works, then great. In this case, it should just print a message up saying that the door is being interacted with. It's this bit here. So all of that script in the third person character eventually calls the interact function, which then gets called inside the door here and prints this message. So we'll compile that, we'll play it. Now if we left click for our mouse, we can see that the raycast is working. We can see the distance of 500, but it's casting forward, and we'll try with the door, and you can see as we hit the door there, we've got the interact with the door message appearing. You can see that the red and the green and the impact point of that raycast. Okay, so we know that it's working, and the next thing we need to do is actually make the door open. I'll show you that in the next clip.